Diaspora with Jamaicans of like mind in Jamaica. Connecting the Jamaican diaspora abroad and at home. Both sides of a story. Both sides of the story, highlighting the positive role of the Jamaican diaspora. Sides of the story. We always need to hear both sides of the story. Both sides of the story.
Time now for Both Sides of the Story. The story of Jamaicans at home and Jamaicans abroad on Power 106 FM. We will not take sides, but we listen to your side. Stay with us as we explore the issues, present the facts, speak with the experts, and as always, listen to both sides. What's your story? Tell us on both sides of the story by calling our local numbers 876 922 4112 to 5. You can listen to both sides of the story on the Power 106 FM app via the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, as well as on onespotmedia.com. Plus, listeners in the USA can dial 631-359-8281 to listen. And if you're in the UK and you wish to dial a number to listen to Power 106 FM, you can call 0330-606-0953. You can watch both sides of the story live on the Dervan Malcolm Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Both Sides 106. Email bothsides106 at live.com. Send your WhatsApp voice notes, audio messages, and text messages to 876-365-3346. Remember, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. So stay with us as we listen to both sides of the story.
Both sides of the story. Both sides of the story. Both sides of the story. Knowledge is power. Class is in session. Power 106.
If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it, if life seems all empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God or man for it, if you'll simply go after that thing that you want with all your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold, poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness, nor pain of body or brain can turn you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, you'll get it.
succeed at last. Don't you know Rome was not built in a day. Opposition will come your way, but the utter hypocrisy with the seed of the victory. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you try, try, try. You succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try, try, try. You'll succeed at last. Don't you know it? Don't I show
We're still in the International Decade of Healthy Aging, the International Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, the International Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, the Decade of Action for Road Safety, and the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. It's the 15th day of the 7th month of 2024. Put another way, it's the 15th day of the second month of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. In the United States, July is being observed as Cord Blood Awareness Month. It's an umbilical, it's a cord blood umbilical cord. It's blood that remains in the placenta and in the attached umbilical cord after childbirth. Cord blood is collected because it contains stem cells, which can be used to treat hematopoietic and genetic disorders such as cancer. July is also Healthy Vision Month, International Group B strep throat or Group B streptococcus. It's a common bacterium often carried in the intestines or lower genital tract. The bacterium is usually harmless in healthy adults. In newborns, however, it can cause a serious illness known as Group B strep disease. July is also National Cleft and Craniofacial Awareness and Prevention Month. During this month, efforts are made to raise awareness and improve understanding of orofacial clefts, such as cleft lip and palate, and other conditions affecting the head and face. These conditions can impact thousands of infants, children, teens, and adults in the United States each year. Some individuals are born with congenital anomalies like cleft lip and palate, while others face more complex, life-threatening craniofacial conditions. It's an essential opportunity to promote education, prevention, and support for those affected by these conditions. Then there's Juvenile Arthritis Awareness Month, Sarcoma Awareness Month, which is a rare type of cancer that grow in connective tissue like bones, nerves, muscles, tendons, cartilage, and blood vessels of the arms and legs. It causes abdominal pain, lump, bone pain, and weight loss. And then there's UV Safety Awareness Month. Some safety facts: learn how to protect your skin from UV rays and reduce your risk of skin cancer. Find out how to use sunscreen, clothing, shade, hats, sunglasses, and more, especially since this is summertime when we're usually more exposed to the sun than than before in terms of going to the beach, for example, and other ways and means. The Sultan's birthday is being celebrated in Brunei Darussalam. It's St. Swithin's Day in the UK, and in Shintoism, the Festival of Souls continues. It's World Youth Skills Day. Hoy es lunes, el 15 de julio 2024. Y les saludamos en cualquier parte del mundo que nos están escuchando en este momento. Estamos muy agradecidos por el don de la vida y el privilegio de servirles en otra edición de su programa, Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia. Nunca vamos a tomar su audiencia por sentado, porque sabemos que ustedes tienen otras opciones, y esta es la razón por la cual jamás olvidamos darle las gracias por elegir Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia, de lunes a viernes desde las 2 hasta las 5 de la tarde, aquí en Power 106 FM. La misión continúa para educar, capacitar, iluminar y estimular el espíritu empresarial. Bienvenidos. C'est lundi le 15 juillet 2024 et nous vous saluons tous qui nous écoutez où que vous soyez dans le monde. Nous sommes reconnaissants du don de la vie ainsi que du privilège d'être à votre service pour une nouvelle édition de votre programme Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre. Nous ne considérons pas votre fidélité comme l'un de soi parce que nous savons que vous avez l'embarras du choix. C'est pourquoi nous n'oublions jamais de vous remercier de choisir d'écouter Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre, du lundi au vendredi de 10h à 5h de l'après-midi sur notre antenne Power 106 FM. Nous continuons notre mission d'éduquer, d'habiliter, d'éclairer et d'encourager l'esprit d'entreprise. Bienvenue! All we're saying is it is Monday, the 15th of July, 2024, and we greet you well, wherever in the world you are listening to us here on both sides of the story, Power 106 FM. We don't ever take your listenership for granted because we know you have choices. And that's why we never, ever forget to remember to say thanks for choosing to listen to both sides of the story, Monday to Friday, 2 to 5, right here on Power 106 FM. The mission continues to educate, empower, enlighten, and encourage entrepreneurship. Welcome.
You'll succeed at You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You succeed at persecution. Yes, we don't lose You can get it if you really want. You can get it listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:15. On your mark, set, get ready to go. It's time for the True Juice 5K, the one-of-a-kind experience taking you through the beautiful True Juice orchards in Buffalo. Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at TrueJuice.com. Enter fee only $2,500. Come run, walk, and have fun while raising funds for the Lincoln Hospital. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try, try. You succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You succeed at last. Don't Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Poro 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. And in a few minutes from now, we'll be taking your calls on land-related matters, anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land. You've come to the right place. Here are the numbers to call: 876-922-4113 to 5. 876-922-4113 to 5. The text line, we'll give you that number in a few minutes from now. And the idea is to identify issues that you would like addressed and get those answers from the experts, for example, the attorneys from the law firm Brown, Findlay and Company, who will provide the answers to those questions in relation to land-related matters. In the meantime, if you have questions in relation to land matters, then by all means, please feel free to call. If you prefer to call when the lawyers are here, that's fine. If you want to give them an idea of what area you are concerned about or information you need, then you can go ahead and send us the information, and we'll be more than happy to oblige. If there are other matters that you would like to speak about, to share on, to ask questions about, then feel free. Those lines are open: 876-922-4112 to 5. 876-922-4112 to 5. And the text line, same as the WhatsApp number, 876-365-3346. 876-365-3346. Whatever is on your mind, please feel free to share your thoughts, your questions, your ideas, your issues, and we'll be more than happy to oblige. And there's a lot still happening after this, what seemed to be a long weekend. And the discussions continue, the concerns continue, the issues continue. And we trust that there will be a sense of calm going forward, because there's a lot happening. And
well, we'll say more in due course, but there's a lot happening, and we have to be mindful as adults, as parents and guardians, to alert our children along certain lines in terms of information, protocols, and practices that can put them in a much better position in dealing with the environment in which uh, some of us have to operate, whether at home or abroad or both. And so we want to be as careful as we can and be mindful of the kind of environment we operate in order to be on top of things as far as these matters are concerned. But for the most part, you would have seen, heard, read, and experienced what has happened over the weekend. And there are all kinds of memes and cartoons and so on. But there are serious matters to deal with. We have to bear that in mind as well. So we want to put that out there and to encourage as we get ready for the back to school period, just to be careful and mindful of all that's happening around us, so that you're better able to maneuver your environment and to do so safely. In the meantime, we'll take your calls. We're just, if we have time for one or two, we'll take your calls within the next 3 minutes before it's time for Land Solutions. So if you have questions that you would like to put to the attorney who will be on duty in a couple of minutes from now, feel free to call 876-922-4113-5, 876-922-4113-5. And the text line, same as the WhatsApp number, 876-365-3346, 876-365-3346. And hello to a few of our listeners in the meantime. Norman Hines in St. Thomas, thank you for checking in. Inez Ayona Campbell is also checking in. A pleasant Monday afternoon to everyone, she says. Denton Hutch says, good afternoon, Kingston, Jamaica. What's the talk out there about the failed killing of Trump? Questions Denton Hutch. And so Denton Hutch has expressed himself. And he wants to start that discussion. He says, good afternoon, Kingston, Jamaica. What's the talk out there about the failed killing of Trump? And that's in reference to the attempted assassination of the former president. Well, the news is out, Denton Hutch, and can't think of anywhere on the face of the earth that it wouldn't be because of the ubiquitous nature of news and those in the news. So there's a sense of calm, a sense of fear in some instances as well, and a readiness to forget what happened over the last few days. So, Denton, go ahead and add to what you have said so far. Go right ahead, please. And thank you very much for your message. Someone is trying to promote some data business, and Valerie Wellerpeck is also on board. And so we got that message already, Denton. Thank you very much. As we continue with more on your program, both sides of the story, Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. And we have taken a couple of messages. Here's another one. Velta Wilson says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm and listeners. Good afternoon, Velta Wilson. Thank you very much for your message. And let's see who else is messaging us here on both sides of the story, Power 106 FM. And standing by for our regular weekly feature, Land Solutions, the program where all your land-related matters are dealt with, anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land. You've come to the right place, and in a few minutes' time, the law firm Brown, Findlay and Company will get down to business, as they say, and advise you, our faithful listeners and viewers at home and abroad, as you ask your questions. So the questions are asked and the advice is given. And that's the general procedure. And so we want to encourage as many of you as possible to take advantage of this opportunity of getting information, useful information that can make a difference in your life and in your family's life. So you can stand by for that in another 2 minutes, and it will be time for today's edition of Land Solutions during both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. So if you have questions about land surveys, questions about the transfer of land, questions about how you go about with this business of sort of making sure that your parcel is your parcel, as in your parcel of land is in fact your parcel of land. Where does your property start or where does it end? And there are other questions you might have. And we encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, this is all being taken care of, and you get an opportunity to learn. And in the end, it bodes better for all of us. Knowledge is power, isn't it? Yes, indeed it is. So if you're just tuning in, this is both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM, and it is time for the start of this week's edition of Land Solutions, the program where all your land related matters are dealt with. Anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land, you've come to the right place. We'll get going in just a moment.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:30. On your mark, set, get ready to go. It's time for the True Juice 5K, a one-of-a-kind experience taking you through the beautiful True Juice orchards in Buffalo. Sunday, February 2024. Register now at TrueJuice.com. And you'll be up to $2,500. Come run, walk, and have fun while raising funds for the Lincoln Hospital. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
With over 40 years of record service, Lock Safe and Vault Limited is your trusted security provider. Get affordable prices on a wide variety of seals, garage doors, access control supplies, magnetic lock, fingerprint, weatherproof keypads, card access system, time attendants, power supplies, and exit buttons. Professional services provided. Visit 40 Shortwood Road, Kingston 8. Problem solved with Lock Safe and Vault.
How much do you know about spices and the impact they have on your everyday life? Join us every first and third Thursday during Farm Talk with Althea McKenzie at 6:18 a.m. for Spice of Jamaica. We'll give you tips, tidbits, and interviews about the revitalization and sustainability of the Jamaican spices, including ginger, turmeric, and pimento. That's Spice of Jamaica every first and third Thursday at 6:18 a.m. during Farm Talk with Althea McKenzie, right here on Power 106 FM. Spice of Jamaica is brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Food for Progress Jamaica Spices Project. Power 106 FM, the digital sound, and now reaching you in more ways. Listen to us on 106.1 to 106.9 on the FM band. You can also listen to us on the Power 106 FM app, which you can download on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store.
And Finley.
Yeah.
All right, so Dervan, step out for a minute. I'm just going to come to your seat and you just start, okay?
All right, no problem.
All right.
And the One Spot Media app, or log on to go-jamaica.com. Power 106 FM, where all views can contend, giving you powerful talk radio in so many ways, on air and online.
Good afternoon, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to today's edition of Land Solutions. I'm Calicia Finley. I'll be your host for today. Our numbers to call in live on air, 876-922-411-325. Again, that's 876-922-411-325. Text and WhatsApp number, 876-881-5254. I see the messages already coming in. Again, that's 876-881-5254. And as always, feel free to call or send a message. Any question you have in relation to land, estates, title applications, etc., etc. Let me jump over to the WhatsApp. If one has a building on one's property that they would like to gift or sell, how does one proceed? You have not said, and I suspect I know why, if you want to sell the entire parcel of land along with the building, or is it just the building and that little section perhaps that the building is on? If you are not interested in selling the entire parcel of land, you only want to sell the portion with the building, you have to apply for subdivision first. Subdivision is the official process of cutting up land. So you really can't just sell the building by itself. Because remember, title really is for land. So to sell the building and the parcel that it's on, you need to apply for subdivision first. What's that process? You get a surveyor to come in to prepare the plans, prepare the diagram, that is then submitted to the parish council. That process takes about 18 months to 2 years. Once you have subdivision approval, then you come over to us to make the application for what we now call the splinter title, the separate title for that particular lot. So again, can't sell the building by itself. If you want to sell the portion with the building, portion of the land that the building is on, you must apply for subdivision first. Hope that answers your question. Is it legally possible to sell land in Jamaica from the US without setting foot in Jamaica? Yes, it is. It is certainly possible. It happens every day. I find a lot of US or overseas, I should say, overseas-based persons are a little skeptical because I gather that in the US the process is a little different. You have what you call closing, where everybody literally comes together, sit on a table, and all parties sign off on documents. That's not the case here in Jamaica. You can sign the documents wherever you are, send them by courier to Jamaica, and the transaction can be done that way. Couple points to note. You must have a TRN if you don't have one already. If you never had one when you bought the property, excuse me, if you don't intend on ever living in Jamaica, it doesn't matter. You need a TRN. So if you are thinking about selling property, you haven't made the decision yet, it can't hurt to go ahead and begin the TRN application. It's good to have that in hand, so there are no delays once the process is about to get underway. And you can make the TRN application online via the tax office's website. In terms of sending funds, funds can be wired to an account here in Jamaica if you have one, or anywhere in the world, really. Persons overseas are still skeptical as to whether wire transfers can be done from Jamaica to the US or any other country, and we do them. We do them every day. Well, I think there's a second part to the question: what are the fees? And these are the fees with respect to selling property in Jamaica. So, as a seller, you will have transfer tax. Transfer tax is 2% of whatever you're selling the property for. And it is the vendor alone who pays transfer tax. The other costs are shared, but not transfer tax. So let's say you're selling your property for $10 million. Your transfer tax will be $200,000. That's 2% of the $10 million. Legal fees range from 3% upwards, depending on the value of the property, the attorney, etc., etc. Stamp duty is nominal. That's $5,000. That is shared between the parties, so you pay $2,500. You'll have registration fee, 0.5%. Again, that is shared, and that's 0.5% of what the property is being sold for. Then you'll have some other miscellaneous costs, like the cost of the sale agreement, depending on what the property is being sold for. That could be $100,000 to $200,000. Letters of possession, maybe $20,000, $30,000, etc. So those are the fees in a nutshell when you're selling property. There are other fees that you may have to bear. Let us say that there is an encroachment or a modification that may come into play. Those fees will depend on the nature, also depend on the nature of the issue. When you're selling property too, ensure that the property taxes are up to date. So if you have outstanding property taxes, excuse me, go ahead and pay them off. And remember, property taxes are due April 1 each year. Whether the government or the tax office sends you a notice or not, you still have an obligation to pay property taxes if you're not in Jamaica. In fact, even if you're in Jamaica, you don't have to physically go to a tax office. If you choose to, that's fine, but you can easily pay your property taxes online. Same for water rates. You have to ensure that water rates are paid up to date. If it's an apartment or a strata, ensure that maintenance fees are up to date also. Those must be settled when property is being sold. Not only maintenance, but insurance. Were there any other charges levied against your apartment complex? Ensure all of those are up to date. All right. Continuing with our messages again, the WhatsApp and text number 876-881-5254. Do you get a cheaper rate if you buy property through the NHT? The NHT's interest rates are lower. By design, they're lower than commercial banks or building societies. That is the main difference. Lower interest rates with NHT. In terms of the other charges, let's say legal fees, stamp duty, and even stamp duty is nominal. Those don't change whether you're going through the NHT or not. So it's the interest rate that is lower. Also, I know I should say with the NHT, if you haven't claimed your contribution refund over the years, you can use those refunds that you are entitled to contribute or to assist to go toward the purchase price of the property. Once you're buying property and you're getting a mortgage, it is best to start working on the documentation you need, because property demand is so much in Jamaica that you can make an offer or you are interested in a property, and even by the next day you get around to making an offer, you hear that, oh, the property is gone. So if you're thinking about jumping into the market, get your pre-approval. Start working with a realtor if you choose to do that way. Start looking, in the newspaper. If you're using a realtor, the realtors nowadays will not entertain you without a pre-approval. So get your eligibility letter, whether it be from the NHT or a commercial bank or a building society, your pay slips, get all of those ready, so that as soon as you find a property, you're able to go ahead. Over to Facebook, and that's facebook.com/land solutions. If you are divorced, can you will your house that's in your name alone to your ex-husband's children? Let me go again. If you are divorced, can you will your house that's in your name alone to your ex-husband's children? Yes, you can. You can will your house to anybody. If you even want to will it to your ex-husband, I suspect you don't, but you can. The point I'm making is you can will your property to anyone. So it doesn't matter if these are your current or former stepchildren, current or former husband, even if it's a stranger, somebody maybe a friend, someone you're not related to, doesn't matter. You can will your property to anyone, and I say this all the time, but I have to keep repeating it. You're under no obligation to will your property to your children, to your spouse, to any relative. It is entirely up to you. So many times persons come into the office because they realize they have been quote unquote left out or willed out or ignored from a will, and they either think they can challenge it or that the will is fraudulent. A person can will their property to anyone. You're under no obligation to will it to anybody in your family. So again, our numbers to call in live on air, 876-922-411-325, and the text and WhatsApp number, 876-881-5254. If you decide you don't want to be an executor, can the beneficiaries force you to continue? It depends on the stage you are at in the process. But let us say you haven't started the application for probate. You haven't done anything. The person has died. You're the executor. Once you haven't started anything, you can renounce the executorship, meaning you can formally give it up. And you actually don't even need to state a reason. It's a form that is completed and it's submitted to the court, and you've given up the executorship. Let us say, however, though, that it's a case where you have started the process. Let us say you have applied for probate and you just decide, you know what, I'm no longer interested in doing this. It is possible, maybe a little difficult, but it is possible that the court could make you obligated, or I don't want to say forced, but it is possible that the court could say you have to finish what you've started. If it's, however, a case where you are unable to, then that's different. And then in that case, the court may relieve you of your duties if you don't have the requisite capacity. This is Land Solution.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:45.
To Land Solutions, the program where all your land-related matters are dealt with. Hello to Calicia Findlay. How are you?
Hello, Dervan. How are you?
I am fine, thanks. Good to hear your voice.
Same here, Dervan.
Mhm. Well, over to you.
Thank you, Dervan. Continuing with our messages. My grandfather gave property to my father a long time ago. My father is 85. What can he do to get title in his name ASAP? All right. Let me just say, we find that as a people, we are very reactionary. We are not proactive. So many of us only decide to apply for a title when someone is now claiming the property, or we see that we are getting up in age and we may no longer be here on this earth for much longer. That's when we decide to get to it. And I wish we would not, but alas, that is how it is. So your father is 85, got property from his father a long time ago. What can you do to get a title in his name ASAP? There is no ASAP. There is no as soon as possible when it comes to title application. The standard title application processing time is about 18 months to 2 years, and that's after everything has been submitted. So if you haven't already, your father needs to get the property surveyed. I'm hoping that has been done, because that could take a couple months to be completed. So get the property surveyed, ensure the property taxes are paid up, and then you can come into us. We can guide you further. But generally speaking, we're going to need to know the history of the property, the 30 to 40-year history of the property. We're going to need two persons who can speak to the history of the property. And if the father has any documentation to support his claim that he has been in possession or control of the property for these years, that would be helpful. So, like I said, not a quick process. Get it surveyed if you haven't done that yet, and then come into us. And sometimes, and I understand too. Let me just say, clients will say to us all the time, "What's taking so long? It's been 3 months, it's been 6 months." The process takes time. You've had this property for 30 years, and I understand you want to get a title, but imagine you've had it for 30 years. We can't solve it in 1 week or 1 month. Title application processes do take some time. But if you're listening to this, get it surveyed and then come in and see us. All the best. All the best to you and your father. Is it true that a will is equal or tantamount to having a title? No. But there's a little exception. So there's nothing beats having a title in your name. Absolutely nothing. A title is the end all and be all. A title issued by the government is definitive proof that John Brown is the owner of 123 X Avenue. So let us say there's a will now. John's father has made a will and left his house to him. The will creates what we call, don't want to get too technical, but it creates an equitable interest. So John now has an equitable interest in the house. If John has a title in his name, then John would have a legal interest. So the will by itself gives John an equitable interest. Think about it as halfway ownership. If he has a title, that would be the full way. It being willed to him, he's getting there. He's halfway there. So after it has been willed to him, he now needs to, of course, get it probated, settle any fees outstanding to the government. Then he can have it officially transferred in his name. When that is done, then he is the legal owner. So a will create some interest in property. Let us say we have an executor, Robert. Robert is the executor of an estate, of a will. Robert needs to start taking care of the estate. There's a house, there are tenants there. He wants to get the tenants out. So he needs to take them to court. Because Robert has been named as the executor in the will, Robert can use that will to take the tenants to court. As the executor, Robert doesn't need to wait until he has probate. So in that sense, the will, I wouldn't say it's equal to a title, but it grants the executor some level of authority, some level of control. So in that case, he can sue someone just by virtue of being the executor without it having to be probated. So a will creates an interest in property, whether for the beneficiary or for the executor. But again, it is not tantamount to having a title. Nothing beats having a title in your name. All right, hope that answers the question. If not, feel free to send me a follow-up message to 876-881-5254. I have a house for sale. It's been with a realtor for 1 year, but no movement. What can I do to get it sold quickly? What do I tell you? Is your realtor working hard? I suspect they are. If it is listed on multiple sites, have you considered reducing the price? Does the house need to be repaired, refurbished? Is there anything else that you can do to make it more attractive? Have you considered maybe switching realtors? Did you do a valuation? Because a lot of times, it's a tough pill to swallow. I see it every day. We may think that our property is valued way more than it actually is. And of course, we're emotionally tied to our property. So I might think my really nice, lovely house is valued for $10 million. But in reality, I probably can't get more than $6 million for it. Tough pill to swallow. And something I see quite frequently. And persons overbuild. I'm not saying that this is what is happening in your case. Excuse me, I'm just speaking generally. Persons overbuild for their neighborhood. So the average selling price for your neighborhood may be $10 million, but you have built a $20 million house. And your house may very well be valued at $20 million, but not many people may want to spend $20 million when the surrounding houses are valued at $10 million. That is something that that person seriously needs to consider. And I know you live in your house, you want to fix it up, you want to make it, your castle. You want to make it as best as possible. But if you're going to be looking to sell it in the future, you may end up at a loss. Because again, like I said, a lot of persons I find overbuild of their neighborhood. So that's something you have to be very careful about. All the best. Talk to your realtor, sit down, have a conversation with them, ask them what their suggestions are to get it moving. Like I said, maybe reducing the price, fixing it up, switching realtors. All the best. My mother died with no will. I am her only child, and she was not married. She had a house. What can I do to be able to sell the house? You, as her, I'm not sure, I'm assuming it's her daughter, but as her child, you would have to, and I'm assuming you're over 18, you would have to make an application to administer her estate. So you would apply for letters of administration. So retain an attorney, and the attorney would make an application to administer her estate. It is done through the Supreme Court. It takes about 6 months to a year. Once you are granted or the order from the court as the administrator of the estate, then you settle the estate duties, if any, with the stamp office, tax administration, Jamaica. Once that is done, you have your name put on the title as the administrator. You could also have it transferred to you as the beneficiary. You say that you are the only child and she wasn't married, and then you can have the property sold. You can start the process of selling the property at the same time you're administering the estate. However, you can't complete the sale before the administration, because in getting administration, that is what places you officially on the title, and that's what allows you to transfer the title officially to a purchaser. So you need to apply for letters of administration, get your mother's death certificate, and consult an attorney also to, and the attorney nowadays is going to need 2 death certificates. Previously, we only needed 1 to submit to the court, but we find nowadays that the stamp office, instead of accepting a photocopy, many instances they're now asking for an original death certificate. So your attorney is going to need at least 2 copies of the death certificate. There is an empty lot between myself and my neighbor. I recently found out my neighbor is claiming it by adverse possession. Is this legal? It may be. Is it that you don't think your neighbor can claim it? If your neighbor, and you haven't said, but if your neighbor has been taking care of the empty lot for over 12 years, taking care of it as if it's their own, so they're pushing it, cleaning it up, what have you, then they can. That's what the law says, you know. When you're applying for adverse possession, it doesn't matter if it's an empty lot. You don't have to actually be living on it, you know. It is possession, it is control. So persons have made successful adverse possession applications by just showing that they have fenced the property, by showing that they have bushed it,
So
by
these
showing
can
that they have planted crops on it. That is tantamount to possession. So if your neighbor can satisfy those criteria,
okay.
then yes, certainly they can go ahead and make an application. If you are saying that your neighbor hasn't satisfied these criteria, then that's a whole other story. And so you would have found out about this application because the titles office may have sent you a notice. Because once someone is making an application for adverse possession, the National Land Agency sends out notices to neighbors. So that's how perhaps you have found out about it. If you want to make an objection, you certainly can. You would know the basis on which you are objecting. But yeah, if you are, like I said, if you're doubting or if you think they are being fraudulent in their application, if you so desire, you can place an objection. So I guess there's another quick question before the break. Who is a caveator? The person who puts a caveat on a property is who we refer to as the caveator. Sounds technical to some persons, but yes, the caveator is the one who puts the caveat on the property. And remember, a caveat is a temporary block. It is not a permanent solution. It cannot definitively stop someone from selling property. It is temporary. So don't think that because you have placed a caveat on a property that all your problems have been solved. Follow your caveat up with some court action. Because if someone tries to transfer the property with a caveat on it, and the notices are sent out by the title office, and for whatever reason the notices don't come to your attention, let's say you move addresses, and the caveat will lapse after 14 days, and the transfer can go through. And you cannot put a caveat back on a property that already had one. So you can't place the same caveat on a property multiple times. You can only do it once. So remember, please don't think of a caveat as a cure-all. It is temporary. This is Land Solution.
Contractors, developers, and small builders. Contact Coast to Coast Group of Companies for high quality concrete products. The time by Coast to Coast Group of Companies is
3 o'clock. There's a retirement crisis in Jamaica, with only approximately 10% of the working population saving towards retirement. Many people do not participate in a formal pension plan, such as contract workers and the self-employed, and some are not eligible for a government pension. Every member of the workforce has the opportunity to participate in a pension plan and secure a monthly income for their retirement. Join Real Business every Monday at 9:30 a.m. for an informative discussion with Peter Rose Hall, Managing Director of BPN Financial, discussing the importance of retirement planning and the solutions to move Jamaica out of this crisis. Retirement Wealth Creation is brought to you by BPN Financial Limited, taking you higher.
You're listening to Land Solutions during both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. Land Solutions, the program where all your land-related matters are dealt with. Anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land, you've come to the right place. Here are the numbers to call: 876-922-4113-5, 876-922-4113-5. And the text line, same as the WhatsApp number for Land Solutions, 876-881-5254. 876-881-5254. The law firm Brown, Findlay and Company is headquartered in Suite 39 of the Winchester Business Center, corner of Winchester Road and Hope Road in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. They also have an office at Shop 6 upstairs, the Jamaica National Building in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. They encourage all of us to call ahead before turning up at the law offices of Brown, Findlay and Company. Once again, here's your host on today's edition of Land Solutions, attorney at law, Calicia Findlay.
Thank you, Dervan. Continuing with our messages over to Facebook this time. If I want to buy property, can I put in my mother's name? You can. There is no legal barrier to doing that. It's just that if it's in your mother's name, it is going to belong to your mother. That's what the law said. And relationships may be good now, but you never can tell what may happen in the future. I recall someone adding their mother's name to the title. So it wasn't just her name alone on the title, it was his name, her name. Their relationship broke down and it ended up being very bitter and sad, really, where he had to take her to court. And eventually, he was successful in removing her name, but it took many years and it was just so sad and expensive. So think about it carefully. Persons have, for whatever personal, financial, there are many reasons why persons would decide to add someone to a title or, property in someone else's name altogether. But think about it very carefully. In fact, if there's any doubt, I probably wouldn't bother to do anything at all because sometimes it just ends up not being worth it. But all the very best to you. My name, along with my child's name, is on my house. If I get married and my husband moves in, can he claim a half of it under the matrimonial law I've heard about? No. This matrimonial law, and it's the Property Rights of Spouses Act, says a spouse or there's a presumption. Let me start there. There's the presumption that each spouse is entitled to a 50-50 share in the matrimonial home. What is the matrimonial home? The matrimonial home is the house that both spouses live in, and it is either in one or both spouses' name. So if it is in John's name alone, it can qualify as the matrimonial home. If it is in John and Mary's name, it can qualify as the matrimonial home. If it is in John and Mary and another person's name, whether that person is a relative, a stranger, or whoever, it cannot qualify as the matrimonial home. So in this case, where you say your child's name is on the title along with you, and you and your husband live in it, he cannot claim a half of it as the matrimonial home, because by virtue of having your child's name on the title, it automatically disqualifies it as the matrimonial home. What you have to be careful about, though, is even though he would not be able to claim a half of it by virtue of it being the matrimonial home, because it's not, it cannot be, he may have what we refer to as an equitable interest. And I see another message coming in asking me to explain what I mean by an equitable interest. An equitable interest is, like I said before, think about it as a halfway, not a full interest in property. So property is willed to you. Your name isn't on the title yet, but by virtue of the will, you have an interest in the property. That's what we refer to as an equitable interest. You pay a deposit on a house to buy it. You're not the owner yet, but by virtue of signing the sale agreement and paying the deposit, you know, begin to have an interest, and we refer to that interest as an equitable interest. So it's not full legal interest in the property. So even though your husband cannot claim a half of it on the property rights of spouses act, he can say he has an equitable interest. How? He can say, well, I've lived there with you for 20 years. I'm the one who paid the mortgage. I'm the one who paid the bills. I'm the one who did all the repairs. And you know how things can be when relationships go sour. People pull out all the stuff, especially when property is involved. So my advice to you would be to do, you say to your husband, so you're married already, is to do a post-nuptial agreement. So the prenuptial agreement that's done before the parties get married. In your case, you would do a post-nuptial agreement. And this is an agreement to say that in the event that the marriage or the relationship breaks down, your husband would not be entitled, he would not claim any interest in this property. You can approach it from that angle. I will say, though, in many instances, persons, or usually one party, is not opposed to doing a prenuptial or a postnuptial agreement, but many persons just find it difficult to even bring up the conversation, to raise the issue with their partner. It is uncomfortable, but it is a discussion worth having. So, good luck and all the best. Is it legal to sell a house with a grave on the land? There is no law against it. It happens all the time, especially in rural areas. Many persons, again, in rural areas, their family plots are on the land. And of course, title is for land. And if they're selling the property, they will be selling everything. And a lot of persons too will say that they want to sell this particular section without the family plot. Remember, if you're not selling the entire thing, you really technically need to apply for subdivision before it can be legally sold. But there is nothing illegal about selling property with a grave or graves on it. The question is, do you want to buy the property with the graves on it? And what is your intention? What are you going to do with the property? But yeah, there's nothing prohibiting it. Let me go over to Facebook. That's facebook.com/land solutions. Do you have to have a reason for removing someone from your will? No, no, you don't. I think I've said this before. I had a client once, God rest her soul. Sometimes, literally every Monday morning or every 2 weeks, I would go into office and see her waiting on me, and she wanted to revise her will. And this lady, maybe she had somebody got in an argument over the weekend, but she changed her will frequently, and you really don't need a reason to remove or to add someone to your will. It's completely up to the person making their will. Just a reminder though, in some instances, a will can be challenged. So let us say that you have a disabled child or you are taking care of a spouse. Let's say your husband didn't work and you afforded him a lovely lifestyle and he was taken care of fully. He was a kept husband. In rare instances, excuse me, someone like that can challenge a will. And they would say, this person was taking care of me, etc., etc. But what can happen, though, to avoid that? Persons will state specifically in their will, I did not leave anything to my wife because she was not a nice person, or, they would state a particular reason. So in the event this person tries to challenge the will, it is evident that there was a reason they were not included in the will. So again, don't have to give a reason, but if it may be open to a challenge, it can't hurt to give a reason. Let me go over to our text line. And again, the text and WhatsApp number is 876-881-5254. Again, that's 876-881-5254. Is a sale agreement valid if it is not witnessed by a justice of the peace or a lawyer? Yes, it is valid. An agreement for sale does not have to be witnessed by a JP or a lawyer. When we're selling property, there are two documents that are done. There is the agreement for sale and the instrument of transfer. The sale agreement, which is the first document, can be witnessed by anyone over 18. I've had persons try to challenge me and say the sale agreement is not valid because it's not witnessed by a JP or an attorney. It doesn't have to be at all. The instrument of transfer, however, and that is the second document, and that's the one that's actually submitted to the title's office to have the purchaser's name put on the title, that must be witnessed by either a justice of the peace or an attorney. If it is being witnessed outside of Jamaica, it must be witnessed by a Jamaican consular officer or a notary public. That's the difference. Sale agreement can be witnessed by anyone, but the transfer instrument must be witnessed by an attorney in Jamaica, a justice of the peace, or if it's overseas, a Jamaican consular officer or a notary public. And if a sale agreement is not witnessed by an attorney or a JP, it is valid. It is valid. Same with a will. No matter how hard we try, persons still cannot believe that a will is valid if it's not witnessed by a justice of the peace. A will absolutely does not need to be witnessed by a justice of the peace. Any two persons over 18 who are not beneficiaries and who are not getting anything, and whose spouses aren't getting anything in the will. Any two persons over 18 can witness a will. In fact, we prefer when wills are being witnessed that all the witnesses do is sign. We don't need any stamp or seal to make it any more official or valid. In fact, when the justices of the peace place their stamp or seal on the will, we have to provide additional explanation to the court as to why these additional markings are there. So if you're a justice of the peace, please don't seal the will, don't stamp it. It's not necessary. All that's needed is two signatures, two witnesses. Oh, there's a follow-up question to this. Someone recently told me at the tax office that the sale agreement is not valid because it's not witnessed by a JP. I'll get back to that shortly. This is Land Solutions.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:15. Power 106 FM, the digital sound, and now reaching you in more ways. Listen to us on 106.1 to 106.9 on the FM band. You can also listen to us on the Power 106 FM app, which you can download on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can tune in on your mobile phones by dialing 631-359-8281 if you're in the US. And if you're in the UK, you can dial 0330-606-0953. Plus, listen to us on onespotmedia.com and the OneSpot Media app, or log on to go-jamaica.com. Power 106 FM, where all views can contend, giving you powerful talk radio in so many ways, on air and online.
It's the final segment of Land Solutions for today. Here's your opportunity to get your questions answered during both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. So we're taking your calls on 876-922-4113-5, 876-922-4113-5. Text line, same as the WhatsApp number for Land Solutions, 876-881-5254, 876-881-5254. The law firm Brown, Findlay and Company is headquartered in Suite 39 of the Winchester Business Center, corner of Winchester Road and Hope Road in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. But they do have an office in Ocho Rios, St. Anne, and that's Shop 6 upstairs, the Jamaica National Building in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. But for the time being, we still have a few more minutes to go. So let's hand you over once again to Attorney at Law, Calicia Findlay.
Thank you, Dervan. Continuing with this message, or someone said that they took a sale agreement to the tax office and they were told that it was not valid because it was not witnessed by a justice of the peace. That is incorrect, and you need to get an attorney. I suspect you may be having, I suspect you may not have an attorney, because we submit sale agreements all the time to the stamp office. Sometimes they're witnessed by us. If sometimes the client may have signed outside of our presence. Let's say they signed at home in front of a friend or a relative or anyone else. That person could have witnessed the sale agreement, and that person is not a justice of the peace or an attorney, and the sale agreement is very much valid. So your sale agreement is not invalid just because it was not witnessed by a JP. Perhaps there's another reason. Not sure, you can send me a copy, but you need to go into an attorney definitely and have them look it over for you. And let me know what you were doing at the tax office with the sale agreement. What are you trying to accomplish? If you're still listening, send me a follow-up message, please. If you are an executor, for example, for a husband, can you be the executor for his wife? Is there a limit on the number of times you can be an executor? You can be an executor for a husband, and you can be an executor for his wife. In fact, that's quite common, especially in families where you have a trusted person, a pastor, whoever, a friend, even another relative. That person is often seen as, the go-to person to handle affairs. So there's absolutely no issue with being an executor for a husband and then also being an executor for his wife. There is no limit on the number of times that someone can be an executor. I mean, if you talk to, especially pastors and justices of the peace, persons are always naming them as executors. So no issue at all, no limit. It is heartening to see that persons would want to choose you as executors, because sometimes many persons have an issue in finding someone who they can trust. Because as you know, an executor executor is it carries a lot of responsibility with it. So if you are seen as trustworthy, all the better for you. Just a reminder, as an executive, you're entitled to a commission. Executors are entitled to a commission of 6%, and that's 6% of the market value of the estate. If there are 2 executors, if there are 3 executors, the commission is shared equally. If it's 1 executor, that sole executor gets the entire 6%. Some executors choose not to take the commission. If you choose not to, no problem, that's up to you. If you choose to do so, it is within your right. The law makes provisions for you to get your commission. If there is not enough money in the estate for you to get your commission, as an executor, you know you do have that power to sell the property and claim your commission from it. Heard what you said earlier about applying for a TRN if you're overseas. How long does it take? I think it takes about a week, 2 weeks. If you go the online route, you can submit everything to the TAJ. I think that's about the processing time. Once everything is in order, 1 to 2 weeks. If you happen to be in Jamaica, you can get it right away. You can go into any tax office with your current government issued photo IDs or driver's license or a passport, and you can get a TRN right away. You don't have to be a Jamaican national, anybody. That's the beauty. Again, so some people may say it's a disadvantage because having, let's say, some persons may not be able to apply for, let's say, a social security number in the US, but in Jamaica, there really is no limitation. Anyone can apply for a TRN, irrespective of where you live, where you were born. That's how it is here. What's the difference between death tax and death duties? There's no difference. We just use the terms interchangeably. So estate duties, death duties, death tax, transfer tax on death, all it's one and the same. So when someone dies, their estate is liable to pay estate duties to the government. That is 1.5% of the value of the estate at the date the person died. So legal fees, the executor's commission, those are based on the current market value. But estate duties of 1.5%, those are calculated at the date of death. And again, no difference. Same thing, estate duties, death tax, death duties, same thing. Let me jump over to Facebook. Let me not abandon Facebook. If an attorney cannot be found, how can I get my file from them? Oh boy. What is happening? Send me some more information. I'm going to assume that you have, is it that their office is no longer where it was? Is it that they have ceased practicing? If you've absolutely, made all efforts to locate them and they have a file for you or property, you may have to resort to going to the General Legal Counsel. Is that they have original documents on file for you? This is interesting. Send me a follow-up message. Let me see how best I can help. Yeah, but if all else is lost, you may have to make a report to the General Legal Counsel to see if they can get in touch with the attorney to find out exactly what is going on. Can a bank sell your house without first notifying you? No, the law actually makes provision. So I'm assuming it's a case where you have a mortgage and perhaps you are in arrears and the bank is now looking to foreclose. The law makes provisions for the bank to send out notices before they resort to selling the property. Um, Send me a follow-up message to please, because it is pretty much unheard of, unless maybe the bank, unless they're sending you the notices and you're not getting them. But before a bank decides to sell your property, it is actually quite a long process, you know, where they try to reach out to you, they send you notices, etc. They advertise, they may have to go by auction, etc. It's a long process. So it is, I don't, you're not just going to, let's say, owe money one day and then the bank decides to sell your property the next. So have you gone into them? How did you find out that they were selling it? Is it that the property has been sold already? If you haven't done any of those things, yes, get an attorney, please, as soon as possible, to see how you can best reach out to the bank, and hopefully it is not too late. I'm thinking of buying a property and getting a mortgage. Is it quicker if I go through the bank or the housing trust? In Jamaica, you see, once you're getting a mortgage, the standard time is 90 to 100 days, and that's after all parties have signed. That's 3 to 4 months. I I think all mortgage institutions pretty much take around the same processing time. I'm not going to say one institution or one type of institution is quicker than one or is slower than the other. Sometimes it may even come down to how efficient your loan officer is. But I don't find that a bank is necessarily quicker than a building society or necessarily quicker than the housing trust. What I will say though is that I wish our processes for mortgage applications, title applications, etc. I wish they were quicker. When we tell clients or prospective clients, especially those overseas, that a purchase or a sale involving a mortgage is going to take at least 3 to 4 months, they cannot believe it. They'll tell you, in this country that I live in, this transaction closed in 7 days, in 14 days, or they'll say there was a 30-day closing and that was a long closing. And when we hear that as attorneys, we're like, wow, we wish that could be the case here. But for whatever reason, it just isn't. And that's something I think we can all improve on. But yeah, I'm not going to say one institution is quicker than the other. Once you get in a mortgage, if it does, it's going to take a long time, 3 to 4 months. If it's a cash sale and you have the funds readily available, once the documents are processed at the stamp office first, and that processing time can take about 2 weeks if the stamp office doesn't hold the documents for inspection. If it's a cash purchase, it can be done quickly, 2, 3, 4 weeks for a cash purchase. But not many of us can afford to buy properties cash, so we have to get a mortgage. So get the process started as soon as possible. As I said earlier, if you're thinking about buying property, get all your documents in order. Get your pre-approval, get your eligibility letter, select a realtor, start working with them, start looking on the various websites. You have quite a number of real estate companies. As the purchaser, remember, you do not pay the real estate agent. I gather it's not the same, it's not the case in other jurisdictions. In Jamaica, it is only the seller who pays a commission to the real estate agent. So if you are a purchaser and you're hesitant about, maybe engaging the services of a realtor because you're worried about the cost, that is one cost you don't have to worry about. So start the process. That's the Jamaican dream. Everybody wants to own something. So all the best, get everything in order. As I said, we are reactionary people. Let us try to be proactive going forward. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's edition of Land Solutions. I've been your host for today, Alicia Finley. Thanks as always to Dervan and the team at Power 106. And just to let you know, Land Solutions will not be on next week, but we will return the following week. All the best, everyone, and take care.
Help us protect Jamaica's borders. Tell us about any illegal guns coming through customs controlled areas. Call Crime Stop at 311. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is 3:30. How much do you know about spices and the impact they have on your everyday life? Join us every first and third Thursday during Farm Talk with Althea McKenzie at 6:18 a.m. for Spice of Jamaica. We'll give you tips, tidbits, and interviews about the revitalization and sustainability of the Jamaican spices, including ginger, turmeric, and pimento. That's Spice of Jamaica every first and third Thursday at 6:18 a.m. during Farm Talk with Alvin McKenzie, right here on Power 106 FM. Spice of Jamaica is brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Food for Progress Jamaica Spices Project. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try, 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 try. You succeeded.
On the heels of today's edition of Land Solutions, we welcome those of you just tuning in, and hello for the others who have been on for some time now. Thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. And I take note of the fact that Franklin McDonald has been sending us multiple messages with respect to natural disasters. And the most recent of the messages says, "Greetings. Do not forget your regular caller who is asking about explanations for his mother's Yoruba markings. In addition, do not forget that today is the 81st anniversary of the 1943 Balaclava earthquake, which caused destruction and damage between Brownstown St. Something is this is right? Brownstown. Maybe you meant Brownstown St. Anne and Balaclava St. Elizabeth in the general area of the island. Please see if any of your listeners remember and can describe the event. We are very short of oral history of that event. Well, the information we have, Mr. McDonald, says, and this is dated 1943, an earthquake occurs throughout Jamaica, causing considerable damage to certain areas. Few buildings in Balaclava escaped damage. Hardest hit are the Baptist Mission, the homes of Fred Farquharson and Mrs. King Randall, the stores of Messrs. Salkey and Ainsworth, and the surgery of Dr. H.A. Bramwell. It is described as the worst tremor since 1907, when the city of Kingston and other important centers were destroyed. Hope you heard that, Franklin McDonald. That's a bit of the history for you to support the point that you made some time ago. And as I see the word Balaclava, the place name, I'm remembering that the great Mary Seacole actually lived in what is now known as Balaclava as well. She used to live in Balaclava. Here she operated, I think she operated a shop or some kind of establishment along those lines. Right. So that's more history for you, Franklin McDonald. And you have listed here quite a few questions or quite a few, what do I want to say? Quite a few attachments. So These are which tell different stories. And I don't see us finishing all of these in terms of going through them. But since this one that you had referenced, the Yoruba, let's see what you have here. I sent you the link related to your Yoruba. What did he call it? It's somewhere down here. Yoruba markings. So 7 tips on describing surroundings in your novel. Enemies of society, how the media portray climate activists. So these are stories, links that Franklin MacDonald has forwarded to us and sending us the attachments. The only thing with the attachments sometimes is that they take forever to open. And so he has here Jamaica's earthquake history from the earthquake unit, and also enemies of society, how the media portray climate activists is another of the stories that he has selected to share with us here on both sides of the story, Horror 106 FM. So let's see how quickly this one will open. And if they take too long, Mr. MacDonald, we're going to have to move the process forward with or without the attachment. But you know how it is. This is on air, and we have to keep the program going. So this is definitely taking too long now, Mr. Mac. And so we're going to have to, all right, so it's coming. Green European Journal, dated 17th October 2023, 6-minute read. Enemies of society, how the media portray climate activists. With disruptive modes of protest becoming more widespread, climate activists are accused of alienating policymakers and public opinion from the just cause of climate action. However, an analysis of mainstream media discourse in the United Kingdom, Germany, and Italy suggests that the othering and demonization of climate activists are neither new nor unbiased. And there's a recording here. And it goes on. Well, let's read what is here. Sociopaths, vandals, eco-anarchists, fearmongers, fanatics. The list could go on and on, as civil disobedience-based protests are surging in response to continued climate inaction and obstruction by political leaders, polluting companies, and other vested interests. Climate activists are being labeled and accused across European media. The language of so-called eco-extremism is being weaponized against groups, even groups that are using legal forms of civil disobedience to advocate for climate change, said Jenny King, head of climate research and policy at the non-profit Institute for Strategic Dialogue, ISD. This tactic, King explained, is increasingly stark in the UK context, and is developing as a trend in Germany. Out of over 400 headlines in English, German, and French language, and French language, media framing climate activists as a security threat. Around 80% were published by German language outlets, according to a recent analysis by ISD. These included comparisons with the 1970s and 80s left-wing extremists group Rote Armee Fraction, RAF, Rote Army Fraction, and references in mainstream media to an interview in the tabloid Bild, BILD, which reported that a terrorism expert warned of radicalized climate activists. There is no distinction being made between protests that might be counter to the mainstream or might be considered as radical. And I think we might have to leave it there, Mr. McDonald, because we still have other references to go to. But let's see. And so this is all about the Green European Journal that Franklin McDonald has introduced to us, and the kind of journal you can read on any given day in your quiet time, but perhaps not during this period. We can only take a snippet in light of the fact that we have other matters to share. So thank you for understanding, but feel free to vocalize if you wish, and thank you for sharing the information. So for reference, for those who would like to go back to this and read it for themselves, it's from a journal called Green European Journal, and dated the 17th of October, 2023. Society, Media, and Culture. All right. Hope that is satisfactory enough for you, Mr. McDonald. And let's see as we go down the line and go to another. And this is it. No, it won't be able to go to another necessarily. We'd have to just glance over those pages. Right. Well, thank you. And the piece about Jamaica's earthquake history, I don't think we had touched on that. The only issue is the time that the document takes to open. Let me hear what Mr. McDonald is saying. Yes, sir. Good afternoon to you. The world is listening.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. McDonald.
Good afternoon, sir.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much for reading some of the material. But can I draw attention to one in particular?
Please go ahead.
Yes, the one dealing with the Yoruba markings on one of your callers, either mother or grandmother. I thought that was an intriguing one because we pay a lot of attention, for instance, on your program, to Indian and Chinese indentureship.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not seem to understand that there were also Yoruba indentured persons who came to Jamaica.
Oh, really?
So the lady, well, I sent you the link and I hope you will get around to reading that one.
Mm-hmm.
The number of Yoruba who came to Jamaica certainly exceeded the number of Chinese who came to Jamaica. So I sent you a research item indicating that the Yoruba land administration after slavery negotiated with the British, and Yoruba were regularly landed in the Caribbean, in parts of Trinidad and Belize, because of the conditions the Yoruba land authorities agreed with the British. The Yoruba had their own townships or settlements.
All right, let's talk about those townships and settlements right after the break. Please, Mr. McDonald,
Sure,
one moment.
no trouble.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:45.
Both sides of the story.
Confidence in those who serve, especially in the public sector, is vital to Jamaica's progress towards Vision 2030 and beyond. Many people have quietly and diligently given sterling service over the years to the benefit of many Jamaicans at home and across the world. Power 106 FM, in playing its part in showcasing those individuals who've served in building our nation and to create greater public understanding and appreciation of their sacrifice, presents the feature Service Stalwarts. Listen to Service Stalwarts every Wednesday at 4 p.m. during both sides of the story with Dervan Malcolm right here on Power 106 FM.
Both sides of the story.
Thanks a lot for staying with us here on both sides of the story, Power 106 FM. I'm Dervan Malcolm. Franklin McDonald is on the line. And I think you heard what I said at the start of this segment, Mr. McDonald, where you say, greetings, do not forget your regular caller, etc., etc. I read a
Yes,
portion.
there is a gentleman from St. Thomas who has, I think, on 2 or 3 occasions in the last 2 months, brought to the attention of yourself and the program that he has, I do not recall if his mother or grandmother was due to be 100 years old in June. And though she was born in Jamaica, according to the call information he shared, she has markings she called Yoruba markings on her face. Now, what happened historically is that after slavery was abolished in Jamaica, the British turned to India, China, and Yoruba land, which is a kingdom within present-day Nigeria. And the authorities of Yoruba land traded in indentured persons with Cuba, Belize, Jamaica, Trinidad, and I think other parts of the Caribbean. The number of Yoruba who came after slavery in this arrangement, as I indicated, not to pick on any group, but they certainly outnumber the Chinese. They largely landed in Savlamar or Port Morant. And my mother, who was born in Port Morant in about 1920, a village outside Port Morant called Stylewood, grew up with first-generation Africans whose parents spoke an African language at home, but whose children were learning English when they went to primary school. I brought it to your attention, Dervan, because many Jamaicans do not know of this, even though we know of the many manifestations of their culture in the form of kumina, which is very well known in the area around both Savlamar and Port Morant. So the article I sent you was meant to bring this to your attention.
I figured.
As it is possible that the lady who is now 100, I hope, and a happy birthday to her and to your caller, may have been born in or around 1924 in St. Thomas, Jamaica, of parents who were Yoruba. They would then have given her the markings because the Yoruba presence in Westmoreland and St. Thomas is well known and very well documented by researchers at the University of the West Indies and in other places. In fact, there is a YouTube contribution by Laura Tanner as part of the oral history work of the Institute of Jamaica, focusing mainly on the Yoruba in Westmoreland. I bring it up, Dervan, because in a lot of contributions you make about history, you don't go behind the newspaper reports to point out there is solid research, papers available by, again, I've reminded you of this. The people who are calling you on this number have the ability to do Google searches on their phone and to read this material for themselves. So the presence of the Yoruba and other endangered groups needs to be better known. I just want to maybe add one small thing. I really stumbled across this because I once went to Belize, and my driver happened to be a dancehall fan. And when we got talking about Caribbean and Jamaican culture, he told me his mother was Garifuna, but his father was Yoruba. And so we then entered into a discussion that it was a part of Belize City, which was the Yoruba settlement, as distinct from the Garifuna. Interesting, and probably others will explain it. In Trinidad, the Yoruba have a distinctive place in Trinidad culture, and they may have a better local knowledge of the contribution of the Yoruba, the villages based on regiments, and I don't know if you know of that, Dervan, but there's a history which we don't talk about, which is also oral.
You mean other than you have already shared?
Dervan, I'm not a historian. I'm not like the gentleman who calls you regularly. My knowledge of some of this is based on the fact that as a geologist, I would visit many places and listen to the oral history of the local people. Today is the anniversary of the 1943 Balaclava earthquake. It has some significance because a month ago we had an earthquake near Alberton, Geelong. And folks in Jamaica and the interior need to know that we have had damaging earthquakes in the past, which are not felt on the coast. So in the 1943 Balaclava earthquake, buildings were damaged in a stretch from Brownstown through Christiana into Balaclava. And that obviously was an interior active fault. Now, in preparing earthquake scenarios, there has been probably not enough shared to do with what our history of earthquake activity has been, and not enough effort to say what would happen if such events were repeated. And I've exchanged with you messages related to the March 1st, 1957 Montego Bay earthquake. When that earthquake occurred, Montego Bay was as yet not fully developed for tourism. What would the effects be? What would the effect be of the 1907 January 12th earthquake on the North Coast, where a tsunami was experienced between Port Antonio and Ocho Rios? So I'm prodding on this because part of the disaster preparedness, which we need if we are to become resilient, must be to reflect on past events. We on the 3rd and 4th of July this year experienced burial. All the accounts suggest that hurricane conditions, where the wind speeds were well above hurricane speed, were experienced in Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and parts of Clarendon. And I say that because, again, for your listeners' information, you can learn the wind speed of several parts of coastal Jamaica by simply saying to your Google device, what is the wind speed at the Moran Point Lighthouse? Or what is the wind speed at Rocky Point, Clarendon? There are devices maintained, as far as I know, by the government of Jamaica's Met Service, which will then tell you what the wind speed is. During the hurricane, I interrogated those devices and I got wind speed and direction all the way through. I am not sure how many of your listeners know that. So if you go to your phone, turn on voiceover, and say to your phone, what is the wind speed at so and so? It will tell you. And the points include the lighthouses, the airports, and the active seaports. So there is no problem with getting information, but Jamaica, it seems, doesn't fully utilize, and again, I make a point I made before. Search engines were invented by a Barbadian working out of McGill University. So here's a Caribbean invention which can tell us the wind speeds and direction all the way through an extreme event. And it seems that we underutilize it. That's basically what I had wanted to share, Dervan. And the information on the Yoruba, etc., is freely available. There all kinds of means exist. And we can, as it were, flesh out some of our curiosity by simple steps using a tool, the cell phone, which many of us use for only phone calls.
Yes, no, I'm listening. I'm listening.
So Dervan, were you aware that Yoruba migration was larger than Chinese migration?
No, I had no idea.
Well, you see, you have on several occasions read all the data on Chinese and East Indian landing in Jamaica, but I've never heard anybody reading about Yoruba. The Yoruba arrivals after slavery are well documented. About a quarter of the Yoruba, in fact, went back to Yoruba land and made a big impact in terms of both culture and economic impact. As did the Indians who returned from India, the Chinese from the Caribbean who went back to China. As you probably know, the first Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Republican government was a Trinidadian Chinese, whose family remains prominent in today's China. So, may I just share one anecdote with you, Dervan?
Sure.
When I was a young child, I was taken all around Kingston by my grandfather and my great uncle. And I once asked my grandfather when I saw a sign saying "Back to Africa," what that was about. And he said, well, the Chinese, the Indians, and the Africans all wanted to go back home. So there was a Back to India movement, a Back to China movement, and a Back to Africa movement. But we only hear about the Back to India and Back to China. There are people in Jamaica who made that journey in both directions. We need to hear their history. In Trelawney, again, this is a well-known one. Everyone knows the story of the Maroons being expelled in the Second Maroon War in about 1790. Do you know a group of 25 or 30 of those people came back to Jamaica just before slavery ended? And they established themselves in the part of Trelawney you were a few weeks ago. And they came back, they made enough money on their round trip via Nova Scotia to buy land and establish churches, etc., etc. And you learn that by talking to the people on the ground in those areas. So when you go to those villages, you will be surprised at the kind of stories you will be told, including how they make that round trip. They were taken from Trelawney, imprisoned in Montego Bay, shipped out to Nova Scotia, went to West Africa, and came back to Jamaica, all in the space of over 30 years. And they came back to Jamaica with enough money to establish themselves in business, and their descendants are still there. And they tell the story. They know their own oral history. But oral history requires mutual respect between the village people telling the story and the questioner waiting to hear the history and not telling them something out of a book. So it's, again, may I share another one with you, Dervan? You have me on track, I'll tell you. I've been to many Maroon villages in Jamaica, and if you really dig into the Maroon stories of their own origin, I love origin stories. They will tell you that when the Maroons came into the mountains of Jamaica, they were welcomed by the people who were there, who showed them how to use the land and the plants and so on.
One moment, please. Commercial break. One moment, please.
At Wellington Dental, they offer cleaning, filling, whitening, and other services for the entire family. The time by Wellington Dental is
4 o'clock. Here is a financial literacy tip from your friends at Power 106 FM. Cut back on recurring charges. Do you subscribe to services you never use? It's easy to forget about monthly subscriptions to streaming services and mobile apps that charge your bank account, even when you are not regularly using these services. Review your spending for charges like these and consider canceling unnecessary subscriptions to hold on to more money each month.
Thanks for holding the line, Mr. McDonald. Please continue.
This has gone much longer than I expected, Dervan, but if I may,
Uh-huh.
the whole point of much of the oral histories is that many of the possessors of oral history feel very strongly that modern Jamaica doesn't want to hear from them. They have survived hurricanes in the past. They know how to use the resources around them. Many of them have deep understandings of natural phenomena. And I think a little campaign, to tease out of people some of that information would be very interesting. You have a lot of callers who I feel sound very angry. And many of your repeat callers fall into that group. But there are many people all over Jamaica, urban, rural settings, who have lived long lives, who have acute observations of all kinds of Jamaican things, including surviving hurricanes and survival, coping mechanisms and survival strategies, which don't get spoken out, The byways and hedges of Jamaica are filled with interesting people. But I don't hear a lot of them calling your program, Dervan. So maybe an appeal to the people who experience some of these past events, the floods of Cave Valley, the earthquake of 1943. Sometime in about that time, there was a lightning strike on a school in Malden, St. James, that killed 6 children. It would be interesting to hear what memory exists of that, how they can be expressed. And because the young people who are very adept of using Google and those other things need to be heard from. And they also need to capture this information if we are to make Jamaica resilient. Because maybe a final point there, and I will shut up. Climate resilience is not total resilience, but community resilience is a wonderful target to aim at. That means you'll be able to deal with drought, climate, earthquake, hurricane, all the things, epidemics and pandemics, because we have survived those too. So I'm just flagging it. I thought the gentleman with his grandmother or mother with Yoruba markings really interesting question, because what I gathered, you were saying, how did she get these when she was born and grew up in Jamaica? And I said, there's an answer. Her parents would have been Yoruba, taking part in the Yoruba indentureship, or Yoruba rescued from slave ships going to Cuba. Remember, slavery in Cuba was only abolished in 1880, I believe. And again, that's another issue which probably needs to be discussed. you know, you have a gentleman putting forward Rastafarianism on the program, but I've never heard them discuss the tension that Marcus Garvey faced. Mr. Garvey was very concerned that Ethiopia had not abolished slavery until his death. He was concerned about it, apparently. These are issues that you should discuss openly and transparently, and considering that Rastafarianism as a cultural phenomenon has made a great contribution to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get anywhere if we don't try to get into the hands of Garvey or Bustamante. We just had a big debate about dual citizenship. Mr. Bustamante may well have had several passports because he lived outside Jamaica for 30 or 40 years. You know, and we shouldn't forget, you know, we have many distinguished Jamaicans who had all kinds of backgrounds. George Hedley was born in Panama of Jamaican and Barbadian parents. How come that didn't enter the dialogue, considering we had a diaspora discussion involving that matter?
That I've heard that before.
The Haitians' greatest hero is that they always say the Jamaican bookman, and most Jamaicans don't know that. So the greatest national hero in our sister island of Haiti, of the Republic of Haiti, is bookman. And they always say the Jamaican, although they know he was born in Africa. So you know, it's intriguing for me that in discussing our current situation, we don't make the linkages into some of the, you know, the personalities who influence us. I never hear anyone talking about Dr. Robert Love.
I have actually done a sort of an extensive expose on Dr. Love some time ago.
We are the people of influence.
Mm.
Was he the guy who influenced Garvey? Percival Gibson? There is no influential Jamaica, I am told, because I'm not a scholar of these matters, but the scholars tell me. There is no influential Jamaican who was not a member of Dr. Love's debating society. Many don't know the relationship between Love and Stibel. Mr. Stibel financed Love. So Stibel is known as...
Yes, he gave some money to Marcus Garvey.
Dervan House, Dervan, but he also paid for the Jamaican Constitution of the early 1880s. He financed it. But you have people calling you.
He also made a contribution to Marcus Garvey's work.
The Constitution turned up from somewhere in 1961 or 62. Sir Harold Allen, who recently got mentioned.
First black man to be knighted.
But also a negotiator of the 1943 and 44 Constitution. Extremely well documented. So when we have these discussions about constitutional matters and we don't go back and see, well, where did these things come from? There is Harold Allen, there is Stibel and Love, and others in the 1880s Constitution. And the public education around things like constitutional reform is anemic if it doesn't include all of those past contributions. And I'm not here arguing that they were perfect. I'm arguing that we present the history in a very skewed way. Why don't we know about Yoruba migration? Or that across the Caribbean, Yoruba land was negotiating with the British, probably on an uneven playing field, to bring Yoruba into the Caribbean post-slavery. I mean, Dervan, I just thought I'd call on the Yoruba matter because I thought that was a really interesting one and a window into an aspect of Jamaican and Caribbean life and history, which deserves a little bit more attention than it has been given. There is one last word, maybe. folks need to use Google, search, pitch the questions. Google may not give you the perfect answer, but it will give you a good answer. And the perfect should never be in conflict with the good. It will lead you into some directions, I've said several times I stop, but we recently marked the anniversary of the Easter Rebellion, in which Captain Taki is remembered by many as the leader. But we don't recall Apongo, the man who continued the rebellion for a long time. The Easter Rebellion in Jamaica was put down in October of 1761. It began in Easter 1716 St. Mary. There is, literally no real knowledge of who Aponga was, how he perpetuated the rebellion for over a year. And the role of Captain Curry, a very interesting Maroon name, in what happened during and after that rebellion. The Curry Maroon chief is called Curry. Is he a descendant? I would love to know. But I'm not hearing anyone interviewing him and asking him that question.
I'll be sure to ask him the next time I see him.
Well, I hope he's able to give the answer, because I believe the Maroons have a very proud history, including the Maroons who are not in Maroon villages. And there are many of those. And we probably need to have a more dynamic view of what some of that history is and why it is relevant to today's Jamaica. So I think I wanted to flag the Yoruba issue and then raise a matter that we really should spend a little bit more time understanding past events like the earthquake whose anniversary is today. 81 years ago, Balaclava and that area were badly affected, but the coast wasn't. And we need to understand it scientifically, and we need to understand it as a settlement and planning and response arrangement matter. Okay, Dervan, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks for the call. Take care. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Poro 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, live on your smart devices all over the world. Taking your calls on 876-922-4112-5, 876-922-4112-5. And let's see. Dorel Richard says, good afternoon, Dervan. Long time. Indeed, it's been a while. Good afternoon, Dorel Richards. Horace, otherwise known as Spider, says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. In the cricketing world, especially 2020, you have people who go around to find the best cricketer to play on your team. In politics in Jamaica, these politicians who have positions like Minister of National Security, for argument's sake, or whatever ministry the position they have, is that their profession and where they used to work before and were so brilliant in their field that the government have to find them to work for the public. And that's from Horace, otherwise known as Spider. MH in Albion, St. Thomas says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. I missed the topic of the poem this afternoon at the start of your preamble, and who is the writer, which was followed by the song, You Can Get It If You Really Want. MH from Albion in St. Thomas. MH from Albion in St. Thomas. That piece was, let's see. It was entitled The Will to Win. The Will to Win by Burton Braley. Bertonbraley. Burton Braley, The Will to Win. And that preceded Jimmy Cliff's You Can Get It If You Really Want. Hope you got that. And let's go to the break and come back.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:15. There's a retirement crisis in Jamaica, with only approximately 10% of the working population saving towards retirement. Many people do not participate in a formal pension plan, such as contract workers and the self-employed, and some are not eligible for a government pension. Every member of the workforce has the opportunity to participate in a pension plan and secure a monthly income for their retirement. Join Real Business every Monday at 9:30 a.m. for an informative discussion with Peter Rose Hall, Managing Director of BPM Financial, discussing the importance of retirement planning and the solutions to move Jamaica out of this crisis. Retirement Wealth Creation is brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher.
Try, you succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You succeed at last. Don't you know it? Don't I show you can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want.
Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. And Cuban in Georgia says, Sir Malcolm, I have met many Yoruba tribe members in America, most of them from Nigeria, but the Ashanti tribe is from Ghana. I work with a lot of Africans here in America. So that caller is right. The Maroons are the Ashanti tribe. Sir Malcolm, it's the Maroons defeated the British colonial monarchy, but of Jamaica, the Ashanti tribe, who we call Maroons. Thank you for the information. Who sent that? Let's see. Let's see who sent that information. This came from Cuban in Georgia. Cuban in Georgia. Thank you for your message. And let's go to a caller now on our text line, same as the WhatsApp number. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dervan.
Good afternoon.
That topic there, what you was discussing, a minute ago with that gentleman about the tribes, that the African tribe that came into Jamaica and so on. I and Herbert have a lengthy discussion on it since there and his program, and it has been, it has been highlighting other program also because I was asking him if the slaves that came to Jamaica, if they were from the tribalistic tribe in Africa, and he define it and make it clear that the slaves that came to Jamaica or the African was the Ashanti tribe, and they were most from Ghana and the Ivory Coast, and they were good slaves, but yet still they were the Maroon, who were also rebellious. So it was a discussion since there with me and Herbert Gill, and it was really enthralling. What I really call to ask you, Dervan, would you consider having a grand gala this year in retrospect to the catastrophe that took place with Beryl?
It's a matter of choice, and if the people feel strongly about it one way or another, then they might have to yield to the people.
In what way? To have the grand gala, or to postpone it?
That would depend on the decision, first of all, and how that decision is received by the people.
No, but Dervan, I'm asking you, is that I'm putting you on the spot, but from your imagination, grand gala is just like less than a month away. We are speaking about the anywhere between the 2nd and the 6th of August.
What do you think? What do you think should happen?
What I feel, Dervan, and I'm not speaking from a point of politically bias, but
no, why do you need to say that? Speak your truth and speak it clearly.
Yeah,
you don't need to.
Dervan, how we Jamaicans stay. We
No,
try
I
and
don't.
mix politics with everything, when we try to speak the truth. You have someone on one side, we say the person attack because them sound like them depend the other side of the fence. But I'm saying we
but you are facilitating it.
Yes, it's just like I said. So I'm saying then, Dervan, I'm saying that the magnitude of destruction from Beryl, I do not feel that money should be wasted to keep a grand gala. I feel
well, there you go. Look at that. As simple as you needed to do. Look at that. Look at how powerful that statement is now that you just made a while ago. Speak your truth and speak it clearly.
Yes,
people, you don't need to have anybody agreeing with you. and only on that basis do you respond because somebody else agrees. No, man, just go ahead. It's you are the one who made the call. You wanted to put something on the table. Go right ahead.
Yeah, yes, Vanna, and was looking at a video footage which lasted for about almost 4 hours on a program on the internet, Van, and I couldn't believe it that the damage is such the amount of damage to infrastructure and people house in Alligator Pond, in places like Treasure Beach and those places. I just sit and the eye water just dripping, and when me say people where me not know them name, me not know them a drive with truck, and I know the zinc, and people are come and them I get a little 10 sheet of zinc and them say thank you, and them I get two case of water, and it make you feel a way enough for these people I take out some money out of them pocket, out of them business, and then again, they're from the National Stadium again, for really park the people them in a stadium again, which it don't have I must say, the stadium want paint up, the wall them look dirty. The stadium wall them and the place just want fix up. And me don't know, it's like these gentlemen I'm just going in a parliament this week and just both Mark Golden and Andrew for just make up their mind and say this year if we have to cancel the Grand Gala this year and just use the money for fix up the place. We really think about that there, Dervan.
Clearly, you're thinking about the people.
Yeah, and me no feel say no time for gallivanting and excitement. No, we should get down, calling all the churches, Everybody must just meet up now in one place, and just say we need to take this thing here from a national approach now, because most of these people now who feel the brunt of burial, them never experience a Gilbert and a Ivan. Yeah, so I just feel the government must just put Grand Gala aside. Yeah, man, I might little input this for the day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for the call.
Yes, sir.
Okay, take care. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still taking your calls on 876-922-4112-5. Let's get in another message or two. What's this one now? This one saying, this is Franklin McDonald saying, this is a very detailed Wikipedia. Well, we wouldn't try to open that right now. Oh, surprise, surprise. It's not loaded. And we're close to the break. When we come back, we will have more.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:30.
The Auto World.
It's the only program on Jamaican radio dedicated to the world of automobile. It's the Auto World with Shelley Ann McLagan. Get news and reviews relating to vehicles and automotive technology. Learn the ins and outs of mechanical operation. Find out about the various stakeholders in the local and international automotive sectors. From auto finance to road safety to motorcycles, the Auto World is your one-stop shop for everything auto. That's the Auto World with Shelley Ann McLagan. Weekdays at 5:15 p.m. on Power 106 FM and the Power 106 FM app.
Opposition will come away. But the autumn hypocrisy is the sweet of the victory now. You can get it if you really want. You can get it.
Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106. Still taking your calls on 876 922 4112 to 5. And Mr. McDonald says there is a very detailed Wikipedia on the Ashanti, how they came to power in West Africa. They rule in the slave trade, the Ashanti Wars, in which Jamaican soldiers fought for the British against the Ashanti, the awarding of a Victoria Cross to Jamaica being one of the interesting events, and their history to the president. I strongly suggest that you recommend that your recorder look at the Wikipedia entry on the Ashanti. He will be in a better position to have a discussion after reading the wiki. Horace, otherwise known as Spider, says, I have to ask the question because, and I'm not sure which question is this now. Follow up. I have to ask the question because it seems to me that you have a lot of incompetent people in government creating laws. Remember the one with the car seat, the one that your phone should not be seen. One, if you leave your license at home, the police are going to charge you, even though once you give them your name, they can tell you if you have a valid driver's license or not. But back in the days, you get 3 days to bring in your driver's license. These people are crazy. And another thread of message, is it illegal if you see someone speeding and you indicate to that person to cut their speed? Is that against the law? Or you just leave them alone? Well, the law is there to be administered, and if you are one of the administrators of the laws, then you're expected to act accordingly. Otherwise, give it up. And let's see. This one says, who is this from now? All right, let's move on. This one, Dervan, this year's Independence Grand Gala should not be considered. Understand that Grand Gala cost is about 30 odd million to put on. The 30 odd million dollars can better spend by helping out those who needed most. Salah from Kingston. Thank you very much, Salah from Kingston, for your message on our text line 876 365 3346. Let's go to the phone lines 876 922 4112 Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello, are you there?
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan.
Good afternoon.
Okay, sir. I just want to refer to something that I heard the Prime Minister said recently. He was giving a speech and he said that he wants Miguel to have its own municipal, like Portmore.
Its own municipality?
Yes, like Portmore, yeah.
And
I am 100% agree with the Negro municipality. But the Portmore one is a total waste of money. You know, I have been calling for this for the last 20 years, where I do believe that each parish, you know, for example, sorry, each parish should have their own mayor that they voted for directly. And along with the mayor and the council candidate, the parish council candidate, they should carry the majority of the work to develop the parish. It's difficult for, you know, the Prime Minister to leave from Kingston going to Negril to tell people in Negril what to do in Negril and how to control crime in Montego Bay and stuff. I don't believe, in my belief, that's my belief, I don't believe it will work. It will work in the best possible way. For example, if you should talk to a police officer who deal with crime, that's my figures there right now. 75 to 80% of crimes that committed are committed by people that are known to each other. And if you could check the figures, it might be made closer than that. Just like child abuse. Most kids who are being abused is mostly people who knows them do it.
That's true.
And for over 20 years, I've been preaching this. I'm not a politician, but I do believe that the parish must have a direct mayor, not Portmore, not Negril alone. That in Portmore is a sham, you know, but each parish must have their own mayor. Until Portmore becomes a parish, then we install a mayor. That mayorship in Portmore is wasting taxpayers' money. And my second point is this. I was listening to the president of the Agriculture Association, and he said that Denby is totally half. You know, I do understand that we had an hurricane which destroyed most of the southern part of the country. I understand that clearly. But I don't see reasons why Denby should be put down. I don't see reasons why. You know, listen, man, we are Jamaican and we are resilient people. We are not some little people. We need to know our history. We brought up through hardship. We cannot allow, you know, we understand and we sympathize with all those people that lost their homes and their roof and stuff like that. But we should have them. We should be making some money and them to help the people. That's what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about those who might argue that it would? Well, there are arguments on both sides. There are those who say, no, put it off. We shouldn't have that because look at what has happened. And there are others who say, well, we need it now more than ever.
That is why we have,
because they might find it therapeutic, for example.
That is why we have a leader. That is why we have leaders. You know, there there are certain times when I go to the market, and even if I'm not really buying anything, I just walk in the market and just look at the produce. Just looking at them sometimes just make me feel better. To see the hard work that the farmer puts in and their work have come to fruition and they bring it to the market. I just walk in the market sometimes and look, and sometimes I might not even want certain things when I buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it shouldn't. They shouldn't really put off. I think they need to look into this very clear, very carefully. And I heard a gentleman call a while ago, and he's saying that the grand gala should be put off again. Why is it that we why is it that we are thinking that way? Why is it the grand gala should be put off?
Mm-hmm.
Because the 30 million that they're using could be used in. Listen, they need a lot of Jamaicans don't really understand that I am not a politician, but based on my experience watching things, the country is doing so good that the government has a lot of money that they can spend. Just today I was reading 100 bus. I've never heard of that. 100 JUTC bus has arrived in the country. Just recently, 50 garbage trucks and 50 buses. And the government is saying that, listen, we don't borrow this money. So it is just for us as a people to sit down and monitor our resources properly. Try to help and cut the crime. Let's fight and see if we can get the crime down so that we don't have to use our resources and crime. The country is doing good. It could be better. It could be better. But you can see that the country is going in a positive direction slowly. Everything not gonna be perfect in 5, 6, 7 years. And people need to sit down and look into positive things and speak positive things. And before I go
Well, certainly the event itself has a planning team, doesn't it? So it's for the team to hunker down or bunker down, however you put it, and arrive at a position which is then shared with the broader public.
beautiful. That is why I was saying that with the agriculture department, they have a board, they have stuff like that. So you don't use people, to on the outside is telling you what to do. You call in a board and you sit down and talk and do what is best for us. And I have seen a demonstration in St. where people are demonstrating that over 8 and 9 days they haven't have on light. People must, why is it that we are doing these things? We have an hurricane where the southern part, there are some places there's no light poles. It's gonna take us time. We don't have to feel like that. We need current, of course. Some people
They could argue, hear what you just said? I have to give it time.
yeah,
So why we're not giving it time?
because there are other places which is more devastated than some of the year where people are demonstrating.
Mm. Well, we hear you, and you have had an opportunity to express yourself, and we thank you very much for the call.
Mr. Dervan, have a good evening.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Opposition will come your way, but the other if I can see. See the sweet of the victory now. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You succeed at last. Don't you know? Don't I show?
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:45.
Are roads a major concern? What about those drains that are in need of repair or cleaning? Who's responsible for repairing my road and when will it be done? Join us this and every Tuesday morning at 8 during Morning Agenda as we travel on our roads with the National Works Agency and get answers to these and other concerns. You are welcome to visit their website at www.nwa.gov.jm. See the tender notices link for projects to be undertaken. You may also call them toll free at 1-888-429-5NWA. That's 1-888-429-5692, or follow them on Twitter at NWA_JA and Facebook at www.facebook.com/NWA Jamaica. The National Works Agency, developing safe, reliable, and quality roads.
Try. You succeed at last. Don't you know? Rome was not built in a day. Opposition will come.
Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Some messages popping up on the screen. And let's see. Steve McDonald says, can't praise the Maroons knowing that they returned runaway slaves. He goes on to say the song was written by a Manning's graduate. He says, I stand corrected. I thought it was written by us. Please, Steve, please. Anyway, he's still shouting Manning's. Faye Weller says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan and faithful listeners. Good afternoon, Faye Weller. To God be the glory, she says. We're here in Anota Bay, St. Mary. Got back light and internet. Well, more power to you, literally and figuratively. Faye Weller, all the best. Sharon Bonafire Hamilton Pearson says, that would not work. Jamaica is too partisan. If central government is run by a certain party, others of a different belief in other parishes may suffer. And another message, monitor, yes, that is the key word. All right. Thank you very much for your messages. 876-922-4112-5. Cuban in Georgia says, Sir Malcolm, when the Prime Minister said no ambulance, no fire trucks, no JDF equipment will be used to rescue our citizens, what does he mean by this? State property is not the Prime Minister's personal property. All right. Cuban in Georgia, thank you for your message. And we see a message here from, who is this? Bunty, the caller who goes by the, or the listener who goes by the moniker Bunty. He says, great day of the Almighty God is good to all, Mr. Malcolm. Please let me know. Can you please tell me? No, we're not going to go through this one. I'm going to go through this one where I know some amount of lampooning will happen with certain individuals and certain places, but we need to be a little more tasteful in our choices. We're sorry, we're not going to join that train. Sorry about that. try again on another program. Thank you. As we continue with more on both sides of the story, Poro 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, and taking your calls for the next few minutes, 876 922 4112 to 5, 876 922 4112 to 5, and the text line is still 876 365 3346, 876 365 3346. Hello to Inez Iona Campbell. A pleasant Monday afternoon to everyone, she says. Many happy returns, Inez Iona Campbell. Thank you for your message. As we continue with more, both sides of the story, Poro 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. And Velter Wilson says, I am back. This one from Mike Montgomery. He says, good afternoon, teacher, to you and your listeners. Keep up your good work. God is good all the time. Keep safe. Thanks for your message, Mike. Nicola in Central Jamaica, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your message. Mikey Jarrett says, Monday afternoon, blessings and blessed love, my brother Dervan Malcolm from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you for the greeting from Brooklyn, New York, Mikey Jarrett. And Sherry Henry says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan and listeners. Good afternoon, Sherry Henry. Here's another message. This is a text message, 876-365-3346. Mr. Malcolm, I sympathize with the people who haven't got back electricity as yet. However, this is a very sensitive and technical matter. It can't be rushed. The technicians have to check the line thoroughly and do necessary repairs before re-energizing them. If not, it could result in loss of life and property, says Windell. Thank you for your message of concern, Windell, on WhatsApp. Thank you for your message. And for the others who are just getting in and wanting to join in the conversation, 876-922-4112 to 5. 876-922-4112 to 5. And the text line, same as the WhatsApp number, 876-365-3346. 876-365-3346. And still have quite a lot of material from Mr. MacDonald, some of which we haven't touched just yet, but we will try our best to find more time to listen and even watch some of the messages that have been shared with us. Greetings to Leo Gilling. Let's see, he's sharing with us a collaboration, looks like it. J.D. Tan, University of Miami. And this is another one we'll have to check as soon as we're able to. But it's a review of cognitive neuroscience and aging research, advocacy, and community resources for a better tomorrow. the third in a series of 3 presentations on Alzheimer's disease. And the presenter is Rosie Elena Curiel, Center for Neuroscience and Aging at the University of Miami. And this is scheduled for Wednesday, the 17th of July. It's a Zoom meeting. And this is at 8 o'clock in the evening. That's the 17th, 2 days' time. And this is supported by the Jamaica Diaspora Task Force Action Network. And they are in partnership with the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. So these are some of the things that members of the diaspora continue to do while we're getting on with our lives, and they're doing likewise. Then in between events, there are flyers, Zoom meetings, etc., and promotions and fundraisers for needy people, etc., etc. The work never ceases. They're always on the job, and we salute them. Jamaica Diaspora Task Force Action Network. Well done. And so that topic on Wednesday, the 17th, a review of cognitive neuroscience and aging research, advocacy, and community resources for a better tomorrow. Thank you very much, Leo Gilling and the team, for the work that you continue to do. All the very best. As we continue with more on both sides of the story, just a few minutes to go on today's edition of Both Sides of the Story here on Power 106 FM. And we thank today's participants in the program, Both Sides of the Story. So we'd like to say a big thank you to Adrian Reed for his work behind the scenes. And Renee Daly, thank you very much, Renee, as well, for your work behind the scenes. Thanks to all our viewers and listeners from all over the world for choosing Both Sides of the Story. And we must thank Attorney at Law Calicia Findley on the portion of the program, Land Solutions. We thank you all very much for playing your part. We appreciate you. And as we get ready to wrap, Albert Lewis says, Mr. Malcolm and your all watching and listening audience, greetings. And Sharon Bonafire Hamilton Pearson says, monitor, yes, that is the key word. Thank you, everybody, once again, for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story, for today, Monday, the 15th of July, 2024. All things being well, Both Sides of the Story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 5. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm reminding all of us that every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. Take care.
You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if You must try. You'll succeed at last. Don't you know? Don't I show?
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
5 o'clock.
News, comprehensive, powerful, and credible. Power 106 FM now presents a simulcast of Radio Jamaica's News at 5.